The new Friday the 13th is coming sooner than we thought. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and if you like monsters, slashers, pretty much any movie shot during, set during, or inspired by the 1980s, this is the channel for you. I'm losing my voice. This is the fourth video I shot today, but I got breaking Friday the 13th news that I really wanted to talk about. So while everything was set up here, I figured I'd just roll right into it. And before I do, I'm sure you've noticed I am right on the cusp of 49,000 subscribers. I would love to hit 50,000 subscribers by the time Halloween Ends comes out. So if you're new to the channel or you've been around before, just give that red subscribe button a little look and make sure you have it clicked. All right, so in my last Friday the 13th update video, we talked about a scoop that was coming from the Boo crew over at Bloody Disgusting, who basically dropped that he's producing the next Friday the 13th movie, and we should hear news on it by the end of the year. Which, you know, if you look into the history of what's been going on with Friday the 13th, it makes a lot of sense that something would be happening sooner rather than later, just because the way that the entire lawsuit happened was money driven. So now that the lawsuit is over and the rights are split between both Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller, as much as I'm sure these dudes probably hate each other, they have to come together to get something made, because that's how in the long run they're both going to make more money and make some of the money back that they probably spent on these legal battles and all of the appeals and everything that came along with that. All right, so it looks like my prediction was at least a little bit correct there, because Sean Cunningham, the guy who owns the rights to like the adult Jason Voorhees and a lot of the stuff that makes Friday the 13th to us, he is on Cameo. So I guess you can buy Cameo videos from him, and he just updated his bio to include something pretty interesting. This might be changed by the time you see this video, but as of right now, it says Sean Cunningham directed and produced the seminal horror franchise Friday the 13th, blah, blah, blah. The movie has spawned 12 installments with a 13th scheduled for next year. So just taking a look at the calendar, it's 2022 right now, and that basically means we're probably going to get a new Friday the 13th movie next year. Now, since I've been doing these lawsuit update videos every few months, I've been talking to people behind the scenes who kind of just like talk in the movie industry, because, you know, stuff gets around, and I try not to play the game of telephone, but I've heard a lot of rumblings over the past few months myself as well, and it really does seem believable that by the end of next year, we could have some new stuff in the Friday the 13th franchise. And if they are bringing it back, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a lot more merchandise and a lot more stuff outside of just a movie, because this is a huge franchise that's just sitting there dormant. And when you can look at something like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is like a one movie franchise basically, and they have a ton of merch, they're absolutely just cleaning up at Spirit Halloween, and also there's a new Killer Clowns from Outer Space multiplayer game coming out, and Friday the 13th has to sit there in the sidelines and have virtually nothing other than the amazing box set from Scream Factory they released last year. There's just so much opportunity there that if something is being planned in the background, I would guess that people like NECA, people like Sideshow, people like Scream Factory even are working on new stuff to release around whenever this movie comes out. And you know what the best part is about all of these different companies working on new stuff potentially? It's that stuff leaks. So we could be seeing more info sooner than we think. The thing I'd really like to know personally is where Friday the 13th is going to end up. Obviously, the like go-to in my mind would be New Line Cinema, but after seeing everything that's been shaking out with Warner Brothers and how they're canceling movies, the positive update there is that Evil Dead Rise is going to be in theaters, which is great, but still, I am not positive that I would want Friday the 13th to end up in a volatile environment like Warner Brothers has right now, just because there's a lot of stuff that needs to go right to get this movie made, and there's also a lot of stuff that can go wrong that definitely would stop it in its tracks. So putting it at a company like New Line or Warner Brothers, their parent company, that just doesn't necessarily seem like the most confidence-inspiring action in my opinion. Of course, Universal is wrapping up Halloween, and moving from one slasher icon to another would kind of be a smart move in my opinion, but I don't know, I feel like Universal has the rights to Halloween 3 at this point alongside Trancas, so if they want to do anything, they can continue the franchise with Allison, they can make a new deal with Blumhouse and Trancas to get more movies made in the universe they've just spent the last few years creating. They could also give us more anthology movies with that Halloween title, a la Season of the Witch. That would be a cool option there. The point is, I don't think they really need to spend a bunch of money to get a Friday the 13th movie made when they have Michael Myers sitting right there, and a bunch of money and a bunch of positive fan reaction to build off of. So the last two options I can really think of out of all the big distributors are Sony and Paramount, and personally, I don't think Sony's going anywhere near this. They're busy working on all of their PlayStation movies. They're busy building out the Spider-Man extended universe. They're busy over there doing their own thing. But then I was sitting here thinking about this video and I was like, who actually released the original Friday the 13th? Because they obviously have to have some stake coming out of this whole legal battle between Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller. And the answer there is Paramount. So if they're going back to their roots with this franchise and they're really trying to reboot it and get it off the ground, I feel like going back to the original distributor who started the entire thing from the very beginning would probably be how it would shake out. And Paramount has been making some really good horror movies lately. Like, these guys will greenlight anything. I did not expect in 2022 we would get a sequel to the 2009 cult film Orphan, but here we are with Orphan First Kill. And I guess I got to give a disclosure that I just did a giveaway with Paramount to give away 5 codes for Orphan on Twitter, but like, I watched this movie before that was even a thing and I loved it. I think it's a great prequel. I think the twist that they have is something you would never guess, and they did such a good job de-aging Isabel Fuhrman. I went into this thing with the lowest of low expectations, right? They're releasing it on Paramount Plus the same day they're releasing it in theaters. Also, they didn't spend a cent on marketing this movie. And then I watch it and I'm just, again, blown away by how good it is. And I really wish they'd expand it to more theaters, because people, despite the fact that they can just watch it on Paramount Plus for like $5 or whatever, they are going to the theater and watching Orphan First Kill to the point where it had the second best box office this week, which I'm sure no one at Paramount expected. So out of all the places where Friday the 13th can end up, we've got Halloween at Universal, we've got It and Pennywise over at Warner Brothers, alongside possibly Freddy if anything ever ends up happening with A Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's get Friday the 13th over at Paramount, because that company seems to be open to new ideas. And as for who should direct it, I mean, there are a million choices. I said Mike Flanagan in my last video just because he's openly talked about wanting to work on Halloween. Ty West put out the slasher movie X earlier this year. I would love to see what he could do with the Friday the 13th movies. Adam Wingard, unfortunately, is busy working on the Kong vs. Godzilla sequel, but I would love to see his take. His old partner, Simon Barrett, I'd love to see what he can do with it. Of course, I've already seen Vinny, who played Michael Myers in my fan film Happy Halloween, putting his hat in the ring, just because he's the guy who made Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and he's working on Never Hike Alone 2. He put out some screenshots where he basically dared them to hire him to make this movie, and they look really good. He's bringing Tom Matthews back again for Never Hike Alone 2, so obviously Vinny would be a great choice if they wanted to get someone in the fan film realm. There are just so many options here. I mean, hey, Orphan First Kill is a slasher film. They could get the director of that to come in and do Friday the 13th. You never know. It's just nice to see that even though it's happening way later than it should, Friday the 13th is coming back. If you look at all the big slasher franchises, Halloween, Hellraiser, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Evil Dead to some extent, Friday the 13th, I would say, is either the biggest, tied with Halloween, or the second biggest after Halloween, with A Nightmare on Elm Street trailing at third. This franchise has been gone for far too long, and it's just sitting there ready to come back. And I feel like fans are just as excited as they've ever been for a new Friday the 13th movie. I mean, everything's been so like doom and gloom and drab the past few years, and we're like in the middle of a new recession. I feel like having a fun summer camp slasher movie where you don't have to give a about anything in the plot or any of the characters. You're literally just there to see a guy in a hockey mask grab a machete and cut some teenagers in half. There has never been a better time for a movie like that, arguably since the first one came out way back in the 80s. So yeah, I saw the comments on my last video where people were like, I'll believe it when I see it, but the stuff is just happening way too quickly, right? Like, we're hearing from a huge producer who's worked on some of the biggest movies in the world over the past few years, especially It Chapters 1 and 2, talking about a Friday the 13th movie happening by the end of the year. That's not a guy who gets confused. That's not a guy who doesn't know what's going on in the world of movies. And now we're seeing one of the co-owners of the entire franchise talking about a new movie coming next year. If you are a doubter, I understand why you're taking all of this with a huge grain of salt, but me personally, I was taking it with the last news update with a little bit of a grain of salt. Now I'm all in. I think we are officially getting a Friday the 13th next year, and I'm excited about it. So if you want to see more videos about Friday the 13th and other slashers like A Nightmare on Elm Street and whatever happens to Halloween, make sure you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all.